Hello and welcome back to the afternoon session of CAT23. Our next presenter is Michael DL5 OCD, who lives near Hanover in Germany. He's been licensed since 1985 and enjoys EME, DATV, HF and UKW DXing, building amplifiers and programming. Today he'll be telling us all about his DATV Not So Easy software program, which he has written to enable DATV transmission using a Pluto SDR. And if you've got any questions or comments for Michael, just pop them onto BATC messaging or YouTube chat, and I'll read as many of them as we can at the end of his presentation. So welcome to CAT23, Michael.
And thanks, David, for the introduction. Yeah, today I want to show you a piece of software starting with the development in the beginning of this year. And now DATV Not So Easy is available in version 1.0. It's available for Windows and Linux. Yeah, I've prepared some slides which I want to show you, and also do a live presentation afterwards. Yeah, starting with the slides, DATV Not So Easy. What is it? It's a piece of software. It's a kind of front end for FFmpeg and for encoding and decoding DATV transmissions. It's IP based, platform independent, and open source. Everyone can grab this code and use it for own projects. And it's based on scripts. It's not a compiled version, not an exe file that you know. It's based on batch files and shell scripts for the Linux system. Yeah, some basic features. It's DATV Not So Easy accept input via D shell, video for Linux, also an UDP or an RGB stream. You can also use a file in a loop for a DATV relay, for example. And it supports also the virtual audio cam, the virtual audio device from well-known other software packages. The output is a kind of UDP stream or an RTMP stream. You can choose it in the setup of the software. The codecs which are supported is H.264, 265, and the new one 266. Codec AV1 is prepared, coming soon. And it also have inbuilt support for the brand new firmware from Evereste F5 OEO, which I highly recommend to give it a try. It supports also VBR, has a built-in relay function for DATV relays, and you can also use a built-in RX to have a kind of standalone package. It supports DVB-S2 and GSE for IP communication, which enables you to enable IP communication via satellite or terrestrial. Yeah, it's platform independent. It offers support for the other Pluto, Lime SDR, Portsdown, Minitune, OpenTuner, and so on and so forth. It's network-based, flexible, scalable. You have three predefined profiles which you can choose to get a fast start, and also support for hardware and software encoding. You can use hardware encoding when you have an NVIDIA graphics card in your system, and also use software encoding libx265 and so on and so forth. Yeah, concept schematic. Here you can see that the DATV Not So Easy software steers FFmpeg. It's the FFmpeg do the main job, for encoding and decoding, since the use the UDP stream to the Pluto, for an example. And on the input side, it accepts input from OBS Studio, vMix, and so on and so forth. Any IP-based application which is able to transmit a UDP or RTB stream. Yeah, and also it has an inbuilt decoder. You may now ask why I need an inbuilt decoder. I have OpenTuner, I have MiniTuner. Yes, of course, but not every software is able to decode every sample rate and every codec right now. So sometimes you have the need to switch between the different devices, and you can start an embedded decoder to grab an UDP stream and show it on your screen. Yeah, when you download the package and unzip it to a folder, you will find this structure, the DATV TX BAT, the setup BAT. You find the config TX ini, which is the main configuration file where all the details about your systems are in, or you have to write the details where you grab the stream from, where you send the stream to, IP address of your Pluto, and so on and so forth. I'll show you later. Yeah, this is the configuration file, as I already mentioned. You have the chance to put the IP address of the Pluto, the port of the Pluto, the audio device, the video device, the encoder type. If you want to use software or hardware encoding, the audio codec, and DShow or network UDP when you want to grab a stream which is delivered by an external software. Yeah. You have also a config RX ini, as I already mentioned, with the need of the embedded decoder. You can put the IP addresses in here, and also the ports where the stream is sent to. Yeah, we have the TX portion. When you start DATV Not So Easy, it asks you simple basic questions, which sample rate, which frequency, and so on. And you also have the possibility to use the predefined profiles here, profile 1, 2, and profile 3, and also start the last run of your last transmission. Yeah, here you can see when you do not use a predefined profile, these are the questions you have to answer. The codec, frames per second, mono or stereo, QPSK, 8PSK, 16 APSK, the resolution, the audio bit rate. You can choose the sample rate, the FEC. And when you're all done with this, DATV Not So Easy starts, and the decoder or the encoder gives you some basic outputs, information about the status of FFmpeg. Yeah, as I already said, you have the possibility to use 3 profiles, and so there's also an embedded profile editor where you can set up your basic profiles, your favorite frequencies you are transmitting on, with your favorite sample rate, and so on and so forth. Yeah, in the new version, when you use the F5 OEO firmware from Evereste, you have the possibility to steer all the basic functions of the Pluto with this piece of software. You can increase, decrease the gain. You can start transmitting, stop transmitting. You have the possibility to change the frequency, and so on and so forth. Yeah, there's also a light version when you do not want the FFmpeg, the embedded FFmpeg decoder or encoder to do the job. You have also the possibility to just steer the Pluto and stream from an external device. Yeah, the control window is almost the same. There you can steer things like frequency, sample rate, FEC, and so on and so forth. Yeah, example, input from OBS via virtual cam. You might know that procedure already when you use DATV Easy from Dominic. This is more or less the same. You start the virtual cam, and then the DATV Not So Easy grabs the input from the virtual cam. Yeah, a well-known picture of the older firmwares of Evariste, where you have an basic web interface where you can steer all the functions of the Pluto. Keep in mind, with the new firmware from Evariste, this front end do not exist anymore. The firmware is completely based on MQTT commands, which I will show you later. Yeah, this is the MQTT Explorer, which have to be used with the newer F5 OEO firmware versions. Here you can see that you have all the informations about the stream, which codec, which FEC, frame type, pilots, sample rate, and so on and so forth. Here you can see all the details. You can also watch the queue, the buffer of the Pluto that you have to keep an eye on, that you do not flood the buffers of the Pluto, and it won't work properly then. Yeah, the RX portion. As I said, DATV Not So Easy has the possibility to start an embedded decoder, which is based on the MPV player or FF Play. Here you can choose the number of streams you want to decode. You have 1, 2, 3 streams. You can choose the scaling, and after you input all the information, the decoding starts. That's example of the embedded decoder, in this case FF Play. Yeah, there's also an MPV interface, an MPV decoder implemented. It's almost the same. You have some different functionality, but the functionality is more or less the same. It grabs an UDP stream and decodes it. Yeah, an example for RX with OpenTuner. Be a nice piece of software which is from ZR6 TG. You could say the encoding with FFmpeg grabs the stream from OBS Studio, transmit it over satellite, and decode it with OpenTuner. So the same thing with Minitune, with the Minitune software. And yeah, some impressions how H266 works. Here I sent out a picture at 25 kilo samples, and yeah, the quality, I think it's not too bad. Same with the MPV decoder, also H266 at 25 kilo samples. Nice and sharp picture, I think. Yeah, roadmap under development, GUI, a graphical user interface, yeah, which is the plan for the future. But yeah, some developers already grabbed the code of DATV Not So Easy and started their own projects. Very interesting. An interesting project is an example DATV Simple from ON ZS2SCI, I think it's his call. And yeah, he already started a very interesting project based on Node-RED to have a graphical interface for this piece of software. Yeah, you can download this version on my Google Drive. You will always find the actual version there. The link do not change. And yeah, that's it for the presentation. Q&A follows afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael, for explaining your software and indeed for producing it for the ATV community.
Yeah.
So as always, to all of our viewers, if you have any questions or comments, if you've used Michael's software and you've got any feedback for him, this is the time to enter them, please, now, either on BATC messaging or on the on the YouTube chat. We've got a couple of questions for you to kick us off. Can the Not So Easy DATV be run under the Mac OS,
No.
a kind of Linux, you said? That's Mark M5BOP.
No, it's not for Mac OS. It's designed for Windows and Linux. But I can show you in a live presentation, which I've planned on which platforms it is running and the look and feel.
Okay. From Greg Hopkins, will it run with a HackRF1?
I've not tested this, but I think with a slight few adjustments, it should be possible, depending on the firmware that is running on the HackRF1. You have to yeah, slightly adjust some parameters. And I do not know if it is possible to steer all the functions of the HackRF1 from an external device. I've not tested this, to be honest.
Okay, I know in a minute you're going to give us a live demonstration as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
So just get some of these other questions. How about, sorry, this is Mark M5BOP again. How about with DATV Express with NVIDIA or Lime SDR? Are they supportable? And also he adds looks like Pluto only because it uses the F5 OEO Pluto firmware.
Yeah, you can use this piece of software with every firmware from Evarista. But when you want to steer the Pluto, also steer all the functions and not to jump back and forth between the map interface and DATV Not So Easy, you have to use the brand new firmware from Evarista, which is completely MQTT based. And I've implemented MQTT into DATV Not So Easy. So it's more comfortable to use it.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Michael. We're going to hand over to you now, I think, to give us a live demonstration of it if you haven't already seen Michael's software. And as of course, we've still got time for you to ask questions or make comments on BATC messaging or YouTube chat. So back to you, Michael, to have a look at your software.
Yeah. Okay. When you unzip DATV Not So Easy, you will find this structure. There's also documentation embedded in English and German language, where all the basic steps are introduced to get all the things up and running from the download, installation, and the usage. Here you can find all the informations you need. Yeah. Okay. Starting this software, you see. Oops, I see OBS Studio is not started. Just starting it. I use it as an input device. I start the virtual camera, and then I start DATV Not So Easy. Yeah. You see the screen coming up with the basic question: do you want to use profile 1, 2, 3? Use previous parameters, or start with new parameters, or use the RPGSE mode, which is implemented. Yeah, I do not want to go to the questions, so I use profile 3. So DATV Not So Easy starts. Control window is coming up. Here you can see. Here you can watch the output of FMPEG, and also an MQTT Explorer will be started. You can click on Connect. This is my Pluto, and my call sign TXDVBS2, and here you can see, sample rate 500, QPSK FEC 54, which was given from the profile 3, and DATV Not So Easy is coming up with this control window where you have the possibility to steer all the functions, PTT, change frequency, gain, and so on and so forth. Yeah, let's have a look at the transponder. If a frequency is 3, I choose frequency 1, channel 1, at the left, right next to the beacon. It is 3 right now, and now I start transmitting. I press 1 to enable PTT, and here you can see the signal is coming up. You can click on it, and hopefully it starts to decode. Yes, it's doing so. That's the input which is grabbed from OBS Studio. Yeah, the same can be done on Linux. Let's close this. Linux system. Yeah, I have VMware player to emulate Linux environment, and the look and feel is almost the same. You start your OBS Studio. When you unzip the folder, you also find an install script, which I've implemented in the software, which do install all the dependencies that are needed to get things up and running under your Linux system. You also have the config TXNE, config RXNE. It looks a little bit different on Linux. because the audio device, video devices are quite different. You have now D-Show, you have Video for Linux supported on this kind of platform. But the following parameters are more or less the same. And also you have some help in the configuration file, which helps you to choose the right parameters to get things up and running. Yeah, when you start DATV, not so easy on a Linux platform, run as program. Yeah, it comes up with the same basic questions as before. You also have the possibility to use the last run, or profile 1, 2, 3, or start with a new one. I want to use my last run, sample rate 250. So I choose 4. And here you can see also the MQTT Explorer starts, which I've presented on the Windows system, so nothing new here on Linux. And you have also the control window. Yeah, let's start the virtual camera. It's already started. Let's check if we have a clear frequency. Yep, choose frequency, the frequency right next to the beacon, and I'll start PTT. Good. Here you can see a signal right next to the beacon coming up. Click on it with OpenTuner, and hopefully start decoding. Yes.
I just want to highlight, if you don't mind, Michael, for people at home, I think the top right-hand window there is kind of what you're looking at back from us. So for people at home, don't look at that, because that's going to be 20 or I think 19 seconds behind us. So I just don't want to confuse anybody at home. So yeah, we're mainly concerned with the middle window there on the right-hand side and the lower one, aren't we?
The middle window.
The one with the video playing now, which is the receiving, isn't it?
Yeah, that's live from Q100, yes.
Yes, thank you, yeah.
2 channels, channel 1 and channel 2. I have 2 mini tuners and have the possibility to decode 2 signals.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lower window here, or the window in the middle, is the window which decodes the stream which I send out from my Linux system.
This might be a reasonable time to ask you some of the questions. One in particular, well, a couple. Phil M0PIT says, using Not So Easy, you can stream RTMP from OBS, then you don't need virtual cameras or virtual audio cables, he says.
Yes, that's a fact.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm always thinking that with a couple of hundred people watching, not everybody is going to be familiar with OBS. So OBS is free software. It is multi-platform, and it's very good. In our experience anyway, you can use it to stream out to the internet. You can use it to record, and you can add captions. You can select from different sources and everything without having to buy necessarily a hardware mixer and that sort of thing. So it's worth, if you like experimenting with amateur television, it's worth exploring OBS, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or vMix. Or vMix,
also, yes.
Also a very nice piece of software, which is also supported by DATV. Not So Easy.
Yes, good. Thank you. One Dave GKQ says, has anyone tried your software on a Raspberry Pi 400? Just wondered how well the H.264 would work.
yeah, 264 might work when you use Raspberry Pi 4 or maybe the upcoming Pi 5, which have much more power. It might be possible. I've not tested it, but when you use low sample rates and low resolutions, I think that should be possible.
And that's under the Linux version, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you. So if you've got any questions or comments to make, because we're coming towards the questions part of Michael's presentation. This is obviously a live demonstration of his software, but do ask it now, or if you've used his software indeed, let us know on BATC messaging or YouTube chat.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Not at the moment. Mike G0MJW said this must have taken many months to develop your software.
Yeah, around about half a year.
Wow.
I started at the beginning of 23, beginning of this year, and now the development is more or less complete with version 1. I plan some minor adjustments here and there, but not a big deal. The development is almost done.
Yeah, it's an excellent piece of work. And you said, I think, in your talk that you were now working on a GUI version of it.
Yeah. A GUI version is under development. It's not only me who is working on that. It's a kind of team. And since this software is open source, it makes it easy for other people to start own projects based on parts of the code, maybe. So there's something in the pipe, and yeah, coming soon.
Okay, well, be careful, because we're all keen to have a go at it, and the GUI, I guess, would make it easier to use. I've got some more comments and questions now coming in thick and fast. Andy G4RFX says, have you noticed any difference in operation across different Linux distributions? So have you tried it on different versions of Linux?
Yeah, I've tested it on Ubuntu, on Debian, on a Raspberry Pi, Raspberry Pi 4.
And everything works well?
Yeah, not on my Pi. Yes, with low sample rates, it works. But I recommend to use Ubuntu, the newest version of Ubuntu, to get this running here on Linux.
Okay,
it's
so
the
Ubuntu
most
is recommended.
common version of Linux, which is distributed.
Obviously, the software is doing all of the work really here. Dave M5TXJ says, what is the PC requirements to encode H.266?
Each modern PC with a modern CPU. I think I have an i9 12th gen, and this works very good. But also when you try lower sample rates, for example, 250 kilo samples, FEC 1/2, and so on and so forth, it works with low performing CPUs. But you can try that and have the output of FFmpeg in I, which tells you if the system is at the edge or not.
Okay, thanks. Colin G4KLB says, is there a link to Everray software in the instructions?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Michael EA7KIR, I must admit I thought this as well, Michael. He asks you, why did you call it Not So Easy?
Yeah, there is a well-known software from Dominic, the DATV Easy, and at the beginning of my development, I found DATV is not so easy. There are many parameters which you have to adjust and to get a good picture over the satellite. And that's why I chose this name. It's a kind of joke.
Okay. Yeah, well, actually, Keith, GU6EFB, he says, is there going to be a graphically interfaced? And that's what I mentioned a moment ago, the GUI interface, which is kind of like a Windows type environment, I guess, more of a graphics base rather than text. You are working on that, aren't you?
That question I didn't understood. Sorry?
Well, he was really just asking, I think, is there going to be a graphics version of it, a graphics interface version, which I think you mentioned earlier in your talk that you were working on a GUI version now.
Okay.
We ought to explain again for people who don't know these everyday terms for some of us, which is totally reasonable. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface, I believe.
Yeah.
GUI. So the likes of Windows and Macintosh, that sort of thing. So you are working on something like that, aren't you?
Yeah, me and other people too. Working some implementations are based on Node-RED, and also starting with the development with C++, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, thank you. Mike G0LGF says, Michael, thanks very much. I assume Windows 7 does not work? ? It says Windows 10 and 11 on the BATC. I understand a modern CPU and also C. So does it work with Windows 7? Do you know?
Yeah, it should work.
Okay.
Not tested it on Windows 7, but since everything is based on scripts, this should work on Windows 7 too.
And Chris W on YouTube has asked, maybe on the Raspberry Pi 5 when it appears. I think you mentioned that you'd made it work on the Raspberry Pi 4.
Yeah.
So do you anticipate any problems running on a 5?
I hope not. I think the performance of a Pi 5 is maybe 25-50% better, especially the graphic card. In brackets, which is used on a Pi 5, the graphic interface is much more powerful. So I do not see any problem.
What made you start work on this? Because 6 months or so, I think you said it took, is a long time to commit your life to doing something like this. And I know that lots of people in the amateur community do, but what particularly drove you to write this software?
Yeah, I'm quite new to DATV. I started with DATV 2022 in the winter of 2022, and I saw some old men experimented on the satellite with H266, and that was the initial impulse for me to start our own development. With a few code lines at the beginning, and meanwhile, I think 2,000, 3,000 lines of code during half a year of development. And
that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. Yeah. Also, I was also very interested in the technology behind the DATV to understand how things are working. What is FFmpeg? What is DVB-S2? What are the differences, and so on and so forth. I'm a technician, so I'm very naturally very interested,
curious
into details.
Yes.
And it was also one reason why I started with DATV. Not so easy development.
And may I ask what you do as a profession? Do you do software programming professionally?
No. I do not do that professionally. I wrote some pieces of software for my company, but that is 25 years ago. It's a long time ago.
Okay, well, it's really good, as you can tell by the feedback we're getting now. We've got a question here. Can it address both of the receive or RX and TX ports on the Pluto Plus?
For the Pluto Plus, I think Evariste is underway to implement or to adapt his firmware to a Pluto Plus. I'm not sure about the status, but I think on a Pluto Plus it should be possible in the near future. But maybe ask Evariste.
So, okay, I hope that answers it, Andy, who asked that question. So it's really down to Everest to update that part of the software, really. And Greg Hopkins says, thinking about cost issues as a new experimenter in this field, he likes the idea of a simplified SDR Angel.
No.
I don't think it's a question, it's more of a statement that he just likes the idea of obviously a software maybe easier to experiment with.
Yes, of course. You can use, of course, SDR Angel for encoding and decoding purposes. But I think also the future is to decode in the type of SDR. Since the tuners are not available anymore, and I think we have to find a kind of replacement in the future for that.
Yes, I don't know if you saw the presentation just before lunch from Dave talking about the various options, and if you did miss that at home, you'll be able to watch this back on YouTube. But the club would appreciate anybody, particularly who has some of the skills, to maybe help us produce a new version of that tuner. Michael, I think we've exhausted all the questions and things that we've been asked. Oh no, one other. Do you know if it would work with the ANT SDR E200, which claims to be compatible with the Pluto?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yet. So that means maybe one day.
Maybe one day, yes.
Michael, thank you ever so much for all of the work you've done on this project and the software and giving it away to the amateur community. I'm sure many of us have appreciated it, and for those who haven't tried it yet, I think you'll be seeing a lot more downloads in the next few days. Thanks very much indeed for joining us today on CAT23.
What's a pleasure. 7-3.
7-3. Thank you, Michael.